Next up, I'd like to introduce Sonya Droguett. Sonya is an entrepreneurial marketing and commercialization executive with 20 plus years of driving award-winning clinical marketing strategies for Fortune 500 and international organizations in the genetic testing, biotechnology, and pharmaceutical industries. She is also the proud founder and owner of Pups, her first business venture focused on elevating the experience of grooming, training, and daycare for dogs and their humans. As a corporate executive and a female business owner, Sonya actively supports diversity and career development for women, minorities, and those in the LGBTQ plus community.
Great, thank you. Okay, so got to get all my stuff here set up. That was amazing, Jake. And I think anytime I speak now, you have to come first and open it up for me, because that is a wonderful way to relax. And I think my big takeaway from today is going to be you haven't missed your boat, you're in it. That's absolutely lovely. So thank you. So, changing gears quite a bit from that, we're going to talk about robots, which in a lot of ways is the opposite of when we think about love. So we think about very cold mechanical world, but we're going to dip in a little bit into AI and marketing in the small business. So this is an area that is getting a lot of attention right now. How many of you have heard about ChatGPT and all the things it's doing? Great. How many of you, so most of you are small business owners, how many of you have dipped your toe in to AI for marketing? A lot of you, that's fantastic. So I know that there's a lot of fear and apprehension around AI and using it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how you can apply that into your marketing strategy moving forward. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. So as a small business owner, and I know this from firsthand experience, and I'm used to walking around, so if you can't hear me in the back, will you just give me a signal if I walk away? I'm also a soccer mom, so I can yell if I need to. And I can yell loud. I've been kicked off the field just twice, but still. So as a small business owner, I know from firsthand experience, you have a lot going on in your heads. You've got customers, you've got employees, vendors, they're all needing something from you at any given point during the day. And so there's a lot that you need to be aware of and that's going on, but you also need to make time for marketing, which is the funnel that brings you revenue. So while you're thinking about doing this, you've also got a lean budget, you need a good ROI, and you also need to do it with as little time as possible. How many of you feel that way about marketing right now in your business? Yeah. It's a full-time job. So while you're looking at your critical business operations, you're trying to figure out how to make all of this fit. And frankly, in the small business world, you have a lot of people who are going to give you advice on what to do with your marketing dollars. Have any of you received a call from the sales guy at Yelp? Good Lord, I've hung up on him twice. So they're really aggressive. So there's a lot of places where you can spend your money. And so you really have to understand why you're doing what you're doing and how you're going to get your best shot on goal for any marketing that you engage with. So I think it's really important that you take a step back before you engage in any deep marketing spend, and actually any marketing at all, whether it's free or expensive, and ask the same questions a journalist would ask. So it's the who, what, why, when, and where. So you want to know who your target demographic is. Who are your customers? Who are you going after? Where do they live? Where do they spend their time? Are they on TikTok? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Maybe they're not on any of those, and you have to kind of scrap that whole social media part. There's not very many demographics like that nowadays, but there might be a few. So which apps are they on? And do I start now, or do I wait until I have $500 or $1,000 to spend? And lastly, what are my goals? What are my goals for engaging in a marketing campaign? So when I'm asked questions about marketing, I have two responses that I usually give 90% of the time. So similar to the Backstreet Boys and 4-year-olds, I usually ask why. Why are you doing this? Tell me why this is important to you. And then the other one is it depends, and we're going to talk about that one later. I'm also a big fan of Venn diagrams. So when you're talking about marketing, there are a lot of reasons to engage in either social media or a marketing campaign of any kind. You want brand awareness, you want to connect to your customers, you want to gain new clients, obviously, and you also want to tap into customer loyalty. But ultimately, all of these are in an effort to increase revenue. So you do need to think about, so really ultimately that's your answer to your why, but answering some of those sub-questions is important too. So let's talk about marketing channels. There are a lot of different ways you can spend your money. You can do organic social media, paid social media, SEO and website content, paid Google and Yelp ads. There's other channels like events like this, print, direct mail, referral partnerships, lots of different ways that you can get your name out there. So all of these are great options, but all of these are going to take time and or money to execute. So when we're talking about marketing channels and the execution, and then we're going to get into AI, I promise. This is just a little crash course on some of the basics of marketing. We want to talk about brand content, but you've set your audience, you've set your goals, you know who you're going after, you know why. So then the next section of that is, finding out where they are. But let's talk about your brand. So how many of you feel like you have an established brand? You know exactly what you're trying to get out there. So after you've set these goals and your target and your channels, you need to start putting that to work. You have products and services, but when we talk about brand, it's more than just your product or service. Your brand is your promise to your customers, your employees, your community. It speaks to the mission and vision that you set out when you started your business. It speaks to the quality, your pricing, your delivery, how you deliver your product to your customers. And it also includes your tone and your voice. And because of that tone and voice, as founders or CEOs or owners of a business, you tend to want to keep your voice in the game, right? It's your baby, it's your mission. And so by doing that, it kind of sets you up for failure because, and I'm only saying this because you want to be the one that's doing all the marketing. You want your tone and your voice and your brand to come through all of that marketing. And that's really hard because that's a full-time job. And we just talked about all the other things that you need to be doing and the critical business operations that you're going to be spending your time on. So what are ways you can filter that brand and voice? You hire people that will exemplify those same missions and visions and voice, but it really means creating engaging content that captures your customers and also captures what you want to emote out into the world. So that's the tricky part, and that's where the AI is going to come in. So, and then you get to the point where you can start measuring your strategy. So the robots. Let's talk about the robots. So when we talk about, I just use robots as AI because to me, AI, computers, robots, they're all kind of the same thing. But how many of you, when you think about robots, automatically think about this? Not so much this guy, right? So sci-fi has created this fear in us, and we come by it honestly, that whether it's conscious or unconscious, when we think of robots and computers learning and teaching each other and learning from each other, it's really scary, right? We don't know what the capabilities, like what's the end boundary of that? Is there even an end boundary to that? And then we go all Terminator, and it gets off the rails. So I feel you. But we can learn how to embrace some of these technologies right now to our benefit and as a benefit as a business owner, and really understand the limitations of the technology just like we did with our computers and our phones when those first came out. So we have actually been using chatbots and AI in some ways for years. So Alexa, Siri, Google Assistant, these are all capabilities that, I'm still afraid of Alexa, frankly. I'm certain she's listening to everything I say. And I'm not going to say the other word because I don't want your phones to all go crazy and have them asking me questions when I talk about Siri. So You know, many of you have had the same frustrations as I have, though, when you're using voice to text and you get really angry and you start swearing at Siri because you said to text Tom and she keeps asking to text Todd and which one and which number, and you're like, that's not it at all. When you're texting someone using voice to text, I am certain I have never used the word ducking in a sentence ever, and that always auto-fills. It fills every single time. So, but there is some good news. These applications are starting to get smarter, and that's where we talk about AI. So what is AI exactly? So artificial intelligence, or AI, refers to software programs or engines that are trained to answer questions or respond to prompts, and then they store that information that they've learned for future reference. So that really, in its most basic definition, is what artificial intelligence is. It's being used across the board. In the biotech industry, this was being used as early as probably 5 years ago, taking all of the girth of knowledge that we got from the Genome Project, tearing apart that data and combing it for things like, cancer markers, things that can actually expedite our development of life-saving treatments. So it's phenomenal. I mean, the robots are actually doing some really amazing things for us and could someday save you or a loved one. But there's also some areas where, it's not that complex, and we would be able to use them for things that we're going to talk about today. So how many are familiar with neural networks? We're not going to take a deep dive into like neurocognition because that would take a whole, 10 years. But we're going to talk a little bit about how AI does this. And AI is set up to work like our neural networks do in our brains. So just like when we were little kids and we saw this beautiful glowing thing on the stove, and we thought it would be a really cool idea to touch it because it looked so fancy and neat, and it hurt. And we said, ouch, and we screamed, and we probably burned ourselves a little bit. And our brains mapped that into our neural pathways to say, we probably shouldn't do that again. When we see something red and glowing like that, it might be hot, and we need to think about it a little bit more carefully before we touch. These are working the same way. Those things solidify in our brain, and granted, traumas tend to create stronger neural networks, but good things create strong neural networks as well. So just like our brains work, that's how these AI systems are working. As soon as they learn something, they get corrected, it starts to create a pattern, and they continue to build that database, and they learn quickly about how they're doing things. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty with AI. So the first thing that most of us heard about was ChatGPT. It's also called OpenAI, and they are now up to version 5, which is GPT-5. So you may hear it referred to as any of these things. And I think ChatGPT or GPT is going to be kind of the Kleenex of AI. Like, people are just going to refer to all AI as ChatGPT or GPT. But as you can imagine, after ChatGPT launched, there were a lot of others that followed and followed quickly. Each of these with their own set of features and benefits and different ways that they can be utilized. So if this makes you a little bit dizzy and you're like, I have no idea what to do with all of this, just stick with me. We're gonna narrow this field down a bit for you. So really, ultimately, which one do I use for a small business? So here's my second favorite answer. It depends. It depends on how you're going to use it, and it depends on what you're going to do with it. So I have found, I jumped into ChatGPT. I didn't find it as user-friendly for my level of engagement, but Claude 2.0 is fast becoming a favorite and is being hailed as one that gets as close to ChatGPT in its creativity, its common sense reasoning, and its accuracy. So I have the most experience with Claude and with Jasper, but Perplexity is another one. So out of all of those names that I just showed you, these are kind of the three that if you're going to be using it for marketing capabilities, you can narrow it down to one of these. And I highly recommend, I'm going to show you some screenshots here in a minute, but I do recommend that you go into their free offering and play around. See which one you like the best, see which one is most intuitive to you, and that'll help a lot before you dump any money into it. You can do a lot for free before you buy a subscription to something. So how do I get started? So one of the ways to get started on this adventure is to look at what you're repeatedly doing and think, okay, how do I automate this? So how many of you are engaged in social media? It's probably everybody, right? Either as a viewer and or a small business. It's one of those things that is kind of like your ticket to play, right? Like you have to be there. It's just one of those things. So we can use it for social media content because that is a beast that cannot be satiated. Once you start posting, it's like you can never ever stop. It's the running man, it's all the things. So social media content, blogs. Do you blog and do you post it on your website for SEO? That's a great way to keep content changing on your website and a great way to get your place up in the Google searches and SEO searches. Are you creating new content for a new page on your website? Maybe you're doing a full brand refresh or you just want to update the data. This is another way you can use AI. And topics or scripts for podcasts. If any of you are involved in doing podcasts, after you do several of these, like whether it be a blog or a podcast, it can be easy to run out of ideas or start to wonder, like, what should I talk about next? What is my audience interested in hearing? How do I engage with them on a meaningful level? I know it's important to me. Is it important to you? How many of you care about dog safety in cars? I don't know. Those are actually questions you can also ask AI. Here is my target audience. What is most interesting to them? So we'll talk about market research too here in a second. So you can ask AI to help you with any of these things. And frankly, I think, any of those areas are a beautiful way to start dipping in and getting started. So let's start putting that into action. So speaking of cars and dog safety, so let's pretend that we want to do a social media campaign and we're going to, we want about 5 to 10 posts that are going to be about dog safety in cars. So this is a screenshot from, does this show up here? Oh, sweet. So this is a screenshot from Jasper. And you can see here I've got my pups eco-friendly, my social and web. Here's one of the coolest things about Jasper that I love. And some of the other applications have this as well. But you can create a brand voice for your business I guess my subscription allows me 3. So I've only done 2, but you can set up your brand voice here and it will ask you a bunch of questions and you can tell it how you want your voice to sound. Do you want to sound formal and professional and scientific? Do you want to sound whimsical and fun and lighthearted? Think of all the adjectives you can think of that describe you and your tone and your voice and your brand. And you can feed them into here. You can also give them text. If you have text that you've written, maybe it's a brochure, maybe it's an ad that you wrote that you think I nailed it. This is me. This is me and my business 100%. You can feed that into AI. You can cut and paste that and say, put this in my tone and voice. You can also copy your URL. Like we've spent a lot of time on the PUP's website. It kind of captures our tone. We can drop that URL in there and it will scan my website and it will capture words and things that we offer through that. So, I mean, just phenomenal capabilities. These things would take you so much longer to do if you were to do them manually. So this is an opportunity to capture that brand and that voice in a way that is almost impossible to do even with a person. So when we're talking about how do you extend that, this is a way that you can do that without having to write every single post yourself. So going back to where we are, so when you open any of these, you typically get some sort of blank screen with this prompt opening that says, ask me anything. You can choose between speed and quality, so it just depends. Really, when we're talking speed, we're talking about 10 seconds. When you're talking quality, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Crazy, right? This is like the first microwave you had. You're like, really? This only takes 10 seconds? This is bananas. So this will open up the prompt. So before we get going on this, I want to talk about prompts because this is really important. So prompts are garbage in, garbage out. That's why this is so important. The clarity and the way you write your prompt is going to give you the best information that you can get out of it. Sometimes this takes a little practice. There are also now tons of prompts on the web that you can find. So you can even search for prompts, do a Google search on prompts for your business, and you can find those. But to write them specifically for you, here are the things you want to focus on. You want to focus on clarity. Be very clear on what you need. I need 5 social media posts about dogs and car safety. Be very specific. Give very clear and detailed instructions. Have any of y'all done that exercise where you write the instructions down on how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich and then somebody has to do it, but they can only follow your instructions? It's funny how much we assume the other person knows that the bread is in the cabinet, that the knife needs to be cleaned in between the peanut butter and the jelly, or it gets, all of those things. So think about that type of example. You want to be very clear and specific as to what you want. You want to give it context. You want to provide some background or the situation that you want to capture for the task. So this is a blog post. This is a one-time thing. This is a repeated campaign. Think of things that will give it a little bit of context. And then the formatting. Obviously, are you writing an ad? Are you writing a social media post? Are you writing a blog? Do you want to write an outline for your next podcast? That can be a prompt as well. You can also have it write a marketing plan for you. Now, there's going to be some caveats here, but you can ask it for any types of formatting you want. You want to use very simple and concise language. This is not the time to wax poetic or get really flowery with your language. You want to keep it very simple. And you can give it examples and ideas. Again, just like you can cut and paste text and URLs for your voice and tone, you can also provide it examples within text or URLs, and it will look at those as well. And then you want to be error-free. So try to make sure there's no spelling or grammatical errors. Just because it is a robot, it's going to take all of that information literally. Personally, I use Grammarly, and I just have it locked in. It's on my computer 24/7. It reads everything I write, which I guess is also scary. But, it reads everything and corrects me because, we're going fast. You're typing really quickly. You want to make sure that you're using the right type of spelling and grammar, Oxford commas and all that. So going back to Jasper. Okay, so I've put in a prompt here that says, as a content creator, so you can even tell it who to pretend to be. As a content creator, as a podcast author, podcast host, thank you. I clearly don't podcast, so thank you. A podcast host, you can tell it who to act like and write 5 social media posts about keeping dogs safe when riding in cars. It's very simple, it's to the point, that's all I need. So I hit go and I went for speed and I got 5 posts. Now our voice tends to be a little bit more casual with pups. I'm not sure about all the emojis, but yeah, so I'll have to think about that. We might have to have a discussion, me and Jasper. But it also gives you some hashtag ideas. I have some that we put on every single post, but it's kind of nice to see what types of things AI thinks might be handy. So that's the output. And so that is now something you can just cut and paste, and it makes it so easy, and we're going to talk about that too. When you compare it to Claude 2.0, so Claude's a little bit more formal. He would be in a sport coat at the party, whereas Jasper would be in some crazy multicolored outfit. But no emojis, but loaded up 5 prompts or 5 social media posts real quick for me. That was within like 5 seconds. Yeah, wow is right, it is crazy. And I was working on a campaign for an ophthalmologist, and he wanted social media for retinal disease, for glaucoma, and like 1 or 2 other things. And I just said, give me 10 posts on that, 10 posts on that, 10 posts on that. I was done in 2 hours. It's crazy. So I don't feel like it's going to replace people, and we'll talk about that too, but it is really phenomenal at how fast you can work. So let's talk about art. You guys have seen some of the deep fake things and how crazy it is that people can create images of like Donald Trump being dragged out by his feet by like a whole herd of like SWAT team people, or, you know, all these pictures that look very, very real and they're not. So Jasper can create some of those. They don't all, not all of those do. Claude does not. Claude just does text right now. But Jasper can do art. So if I decide that I don't want to spend a lot of time in Canva, I don't have pictures of my own to share, I just need a handful of pictures of dogs and cars for my safety, to go along with my safety posts. I can just tell it, hey, give me dog safety and cars, and I get this. And not only that, but because I fed it my brand book, it knows that teal, that light teal, is one of our brand colors. So phenomenal. So it's going to keep the feed very consistent. So I can load that into Canva. Do y'all use Canva? It's amazing. It's like, you know, Illustrator for dummies, but it has been getting more and more sophisticated, and I absolutely love it. I'm a huge fan. So with this, I've got my brand book in here with our logos, all of our colors, our fonts. I can drop our logo in the corner, and then I can download, you know, I can do 5, 10, 30 of these, boom, 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 boom. The template's done. I download these onto my computer from Canva, and they're ready to be loaded up as JPEGs. So depending on, you know, as we talked about, when you're looking at who your audience is and where they live, right now the majority of our audience is on Facebook and Insta. My younger employees keep telling me that we have to be on TikTok, and I love them so much, and those aren't our people. They're just not there. So our people are on Meta. So really you can use Meta if those are the only two places where your people are. It's free. You can post, unless you want to do paid advertising, but you can do your postings in here. You add your photos. You can cut and paste your posts from Jasper, and then you're done. And you can get all of those scheduled within another maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and now you're done for the week or even the month. And you can just, you know, set it and forget it. Now I'm an infomercial. So this is what it looks like after I've loaded in all the info. I can go down here and hit schedule, and it's ready to go. If your people live in more places than just Facebook and Insta, you can automate some of the ways that you post to multiple fronts. So if your people do live on TikTok or Twitter or any of these other places, maybe LinkedIn, maybe you want to post your things on Pinterest. Loomly is a great one. There's a handful of these as well, right? So find the one that is the right price point for you and does the things that you want it to do. I found that Loomly is the most comprehensive one. It saves all your hashtags in different collections. So that's all automated, and you can just click on that and it goes. And this is a way that you can really just load in all of your social media for as long as you want to sit at your computer. You can just keep loading it up, and then you don't have to think about it again for a while, which I think is phenomenal. So that's another option for you if you are going to be using, you know, different types of social media. So other applications for AI. So that's kind of the social media hacks that I have. I think that when you move forward and you start getting more comfortable, you can look at programs like Zapier or Zapier if you want to be fancy. But Zapier is a great automation tool that you can automate emails. You know, when somebody subscribes to your website, if it's not already built in Wix or WordPress, you can have your whole marketing campaign set those sequenced emails to people who are interested, depending on what they've clicked on, what they've looked at, which page they've been on. So Zapier is a way to automate some of that as well, and you can write those emails with AI. So Jasper can write those emails for you, and then you can just load those up. Other things it can do. As I mentioned, it can help you with strategic marketing plans. You can talk to it about which categories need to be in there, what needs to be in there. Write an executive summary, act as a business owner, and write an executive summary about a new business that's launching with women's hiking boots. It will do that. You can also have it summarize articles. So let's say you have 3 articles that you'd like to condense into a couple of summary paragraphs, whether you're putting it in a newsletter or something else. You can grab those articles and reference those, obviously, in your materials, but you can ask it to summarize those 3 articles in a 100-word paragraph, or you can give it those types of words or characters, boundaries, so that it keeps it within that. Multiple website reviews. Looking at your competition, put those in there. What are these guys offering that I'm not? Review these 3 websites and tell me what their competitive advantages are or what services they're offering. What are their differences? Compare it to this website and put in your own. So there are things that you can do. It's kind of like programming for dummies in a lot of ways, because these things you would have to code an entire program to do some of these specific tasks. And then market research. What's going to be engaging for my audience? So what do coffee drinkers in Sugar House want to hear about? What do Mary Kay Cosmetics customers want to hear about? Real estate, what do they want to hear about right now? What's going on? So those are things that you can ask AI, and so think of it as a search engine on steroids. Act as a small business owner and tell me what is the most engaging topics right now on the internet. So tell it to go there on the internet for this specific market. And on that note, I will say not all of those AI programs are capable of searching the internet. So you want to make sure that it can, because that gives you the most capability. And you can even ask the AI if you're not sure. You can say, are you able to scan the internet? And it will say yes or no and tell you what its capabilities are. So again, it's bananas. The whole thing's crazy and amazing. So here are my words of caution. So this is not a replacement for you or an employee. You will always need a human to ask the right prompts. You will always need a human to take a look at what it spits out, right? So this is to enhance your efficiency, not to replace a person. So you want to be very thoughtful when you're creating your prompts. Add as many qualifiers as you can, but you have to make sure that you're proofing this content before it goes out. So you may ask it for 30 posts. Some of those may be redundant. Some of them just may be off and missed the mark on your voice, on the brand, on what you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes it's just not even right, like it's just incorrect. So again, these are learning models. So they need to learn what you want and what you don't want. So you can take an example, you can cut the best one of those, the results that it gave you, and say, write more like this, and it'll do that. And now you're teaching it to be smarter and to understand the tone and the voice that you want. So, you know, the robots aren't going to take over yet, so we're still okay. But I think we need to be able to use them to our advantage. And as a small business owner with so much on your plate, again, I work 2 full-time jobs. I run pups. I work a full-time job as a marketing director. I get it. There's so much going on for you. And this is one area that you can automate some of this and make it a lot easier on yourself. And as I told you, a lot of it you can do for free. So here are the resources I talked about. I threw out a lot of names and words and things to you, so you can take a picture of this if you'd like. My name and email, phone number are there as well. You know, I'm more than happy to talk to any of you about this as you're getting started. When I started Pups, I did not spend a dime on marketing. Part of it was just my own ego a little bit, like, I don't need to spend money, I'm a marketer. So, but you can use organic social media growth for brand awareness. There are other things that you can do that really will expedite. I think my marketing budget for Pups has not been anything over $1,000 for any given quarter or year that we've been open, and I feel like we've got some pretty solid recognition in our community. So it is possible to do this on a shoestring budget, and I think AI will help you do that as well. I guess with that, I'll ask if there's any questions. We've got about 15 minutes here to be able to chat about things. Yes?
I thought this presentation and how this really got my inner wheels
Your inner robot? You're in touch with your inner robot?
My inner Rodney Copperbottom. I wonder, I've been fixating on a brilliantly functional website, and I wonder if that makes me old school. But I'm hearing you say there's still value to good old websites.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think it's for those of you way in the back, if you didn't hear, so is there still value in a good old-fashioned website? And the answer is yes. I think it's one of those things without it. I mean, that's the white pages and yellow pages now, right? That's where people go to find you. They're going to do a Google search to find you. They're going to do a Google Maps on their phone to see, dog groomers near me. You want your business to come up. What is it you do?
I want a website to promote my officiating service.
Oh, brilliant. So you're an officiant. So perfect. Yeah. So when people are looking for that, I need an officiant that does X, Y, and Z near me. And you want your name to pop up. So yes, having a professional website, having spelling errors, having it not format when it goes from computer to phone, those things to me, and maybe, I'm speaking from a very, strong marketing bias. When I see that, I'm like, I don't know what that person's doing. If that's how they're presenting their business, are they going to be good at what they do, right? So I think a good, tight website is really important. And I think it's also very important to be able to continually update that content, because that is what gets you moving up in SEO. Updated content and video. Those are the, video clips. If you're posting your blog into your website, on the little sidebar or somewhere, those things, that activity shows the internet that you're busy and you're doing stuff, and it wants to move you up in the search ranks. So yes, continue doing that. Other questions? In the back, yeah.
With AI, since it's aggregating much of information off the internet, what's the danger that you see, or have you found the danger in it pulling incorrect information or bad actors manipulating information that can then be spit out through AI?
Yeah, so bad actors, deep fakes, all of the things that AI is capable of doing, and absolutely. Just like there are hackers sending you weird emails that your PayPal account's been hacked and then you click on the button and it takes you down a rabbit hole, they're going to do the same with AI, unfortunately. And that's why I think it still takes a human. You still have to be able to read through that and be able to say, wait a minute, something's not quite right here. So it won't entirely, I don't think it's there yet. I think it's still in its infant stages, which means maybe the hacked or bad actor people haven't really spent a lot of time on it. But, I think just like you could teach it, you could put bad information in, I think you can also put good information to correct it. So it might be one of those Wikipedia things where there's just like this battle going on in the background of good and evil, and trying to get that right type of content in there. But again, that's my point. Like, you don't want to just automate this to the point where it takes those things and posts them right away, because you may be posting stuff that you see on next Thursday and you're like, no, and you delete. So, you want to still be watching for it. But yeah, absolutely. You have to use your common sense. Hopefully, what we'll see is that the people that are running these companies like Claude, like Jasper, are watching for that as well. Just like with Facebook and some of the, weird campaigns that have happened around political campaigns and things like that. How do we make sure that that doesn't happen in AI? And hopefully, that'll be probably the next level of discussion we have. But watch for it for sure. Other questions?
Me again. When I hear the phrase engaging content, social media has warped and distorted what that is a start, a beginner, a novice can think of as arriving at engaging content. Challenge my curated, well-lit, edited, perfectly filtered bias.
Okay.
Challenge me. Walk me off that.
So if I understand your question, you're saying that because social media is so crazy and all this other stuff going on, how do you create engaging content?
I'm fixating on somebody else's.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Fixating on an outcome that's well edited.
Yeah.
And my audio is great and my lighting is
Yes.
flawless, and that's not necessarily true of anything I could do right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I go back to why. Think about why you're doing your social media posts and who you're connecting to, right? So who is it you want to find? And maybe your audience is different than their audience, right? So if you think about your target audience and your goals, maybe your people aren't those people yet, right? Maybe those officiants spend, charge a heck of a lot more money than you would. You have a different brand, a different gift, a different product that you're delivering. So yes, try not to get too fixated. You want to know thy enemy. It's important to know your competition. It's important to see what they're doing, but also don't forget yourself in that. Don't forget what you are bringing that's different and how you're differentiating yourself in the market. So with pups, there's a million dog groomers out there. And we opened during COVID when it was like a dog boom, right? Everybody was adopting dogs. There wasn't one in the shelter to be found, which was amazing. I wish we could get back there. But, there are a lot out there. So my task was to sit down and think, what's going to make us different? What's going to make people choose us over Petco or PetSmart that have an unlimited marketing budget, right? So those are some of the things you have to think about when you're thinking about your brand and what it is you're delivering. And so that who, what, when, where, and why, answer those questions for yourself in that business, because that will direct, and then kind of ignore what they're doing. Make your own space. Find your blue space, right? It's like, when you look at positioning, like everybody's all over, you want to find your space where no one can touch you. So what are those two attributes for you? Like, is it cost and connection? Is it friendliness? And, what are the things that you think that you can win every day of the week against anybody else that's out there? So really, using AI to review your competitors is another great tool. Like, review this website and tell me what their strengths are or tell me what their weaknesses are. Yeah, so a lot of it's just basic marketing tenets that you put into AI. And we could do a whole 3 hours on that, or 3 days if you wanted to. So, I'm absolutely happy to answer any questions via email if you have them. But, kind of just go back to the basics and then use AI to do the things that would take you a long time. I think market research is phenomenal because I'm a huge advocate of market research, and to be able to use this tool quickly and find things is fantastic. It really makes it a lot faster for me. In the back.
I have a question. I'm very new to all of this, but if you're using it to create content, is that content considered yours? Like if I wrote it from content by heart?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so copyright and content that's created by AI. So the question is, once you use AI to build your content, is that yours? That is the $3 billion question, I think, right now. So once you put that content on your website, it's part of your website. Now, if you truly want it to be yours, let's say you're looking for a tagline, brand new business, you're just getting started. What is it you do? Life coaching? Okay. So, you want a tagline for your life coaching business. So you ask AI, give me, act as a small business owner and give me 10 taglines for a life coaching business that focuses on X, Y, and Z. It gives you those 5. You decide that one of them's phenomenal. That's what you're going to use. You're going to put it on every single brochure, your website, all the places. Get it trademarked, get it copyrighted. So, then it is absolutely yours, because that law still stands firm. Whereas if you're just writing a paragraph and dropping it in, I mean, somebody could easily plagiarize that. Just ask any student right now who's trying to hack their papers, right? I have an 18-year-old son that just started high school or college, and we've been talking a lot about using AI and not using AI. So, I think that if you find something that you truly want it to be yours, get it copyrighted. And if not, it's a little bit Wild West.
Does that apply to pictures as well? So you can get a picture from AI.
Does it apply to the pictures as well, or any art that you create? Pretty much, yes. If you're creating a logo, trademark it. If you're creating, copy or imagery, if you want it to be yours, trademark it. Because again, I don't know where it's going to land on this, but it is so huge that I think if you truly want it to be yours, you want to trademark that. And I am going to put in a plug for Taffy that's here. So I walked through the little exhibit area, and they can create avatars and all kinds of cool imagery that you can use in your stuff. So there's even programs like that that are just focused on that imagery. And then again, if you find something you like, trademark it, copyright it. Any other questions? I think we have like 3 minutes before, but I'm also a big fan of bio breaks, so whatever you guys need. Okay, so I'm gonna sneak out for about an hour, and then I'll be back here for a little bit this afternoon. So you can catch me if you have any questions, or just shoot me a message. Or come by Pups, we'd love to see you. And if you have a dog, bring them in, we'd love to meet them. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.